First of all, congratulations. I know that it is under difficult circumstances. Tell me how you feel stepping into this role.
First, I'd like to extend my gratitude to the governor and for Florida Highway Patrol Executive Director David Kerner for picking me or nominating me for the potential position, which eventually on Thursday evolved into me taking over as the Sheriff of Osceola County. This is a huge responsibility, and I accept this challenge with great honor and humility. I'm deeply honored and profoundly grateful for the opportunity to serve as the Osceola County Sheriff. This appointment is definitely not a title. I'm not a title guy. It's a sacred trust that's put upon the sheriff to do the right thing, and that is a commitment to protect, serve, and uplift every member of our community. Paramount to me is the protection of children. That's number one on my goal, but every person that lives in Osceola County or visits falls under the protection of the Osceola County Sheriff's Office.
Well, there's a lot of people, of course, who pointed out many of the missteps that he made, but then there are also some who supported him. How are you going to deal with those people who say he's innocent, he was set up, this is, he's targeted?
All I would say on that, he wasn't targeted. I can tell you, I've read the report, and not because I took over in his position. I'm disgusted by what I read. This report is extremely lengthy. I can't go into it because it's still under investigation. But when that becomes a public record and it's viewable for everybody, I challenge you to sit down and read it. And if you come up with a different opinion than what the investigators found, you got a problem. Because the sheriff was doing criminal behavior. And again, I said it earlier, how in the world can you be the lead person of an agency, the sheriff of that county, and betray the trust of everybody that supported you, your agency, all employees across the board, and the people who voted for you and put you in office? He was not targeted. He did this to himself. And there's going to be some other things in the investigation I can't discuss. It's going to come out, and you're going to read it and say, holy smokes, this is not good. If you put on your thinking cap, I'm just trying to direct you. Why would Homeland Security be involved in something like this? The governor doesn't take lightly removing a sheriff. He doesn't take lightly removing a state attorney, because it's typically somebody not doing their job, as he's done with the state attorneys before removing them. But this is a sheriff that not only wasn't doing his job, he had a criminal enterprise set up, and that's why he's charged with RICO. I don't know where that case is going to lead, but all I can tell you is the new sheriff of Osceola County, I'm going to do my best to ensure the protection of this community.
But there are some people who are concerned that he has some insiders in there. How are you going to deal with that?
The investigation is still continuing, as I said. So FDLE is going to vet whoever through the investigation. There's members I'm sure they got to talk to and interview, but that will be dealt with at that time. Right now, I can tell you, sitting here talking to you now, there are no expectations of any other involvement from what I was told through the investigation. But as their investigation continues, if anything pops up, they said I'd be the first call. They'd let me know. But they're going to vet the entire staff to let us know what's going on.
Is that FDLE vetting the staff?
Yes, FDLE is doing the investigation, so they're going to vet the ones for me and going to tell me through the investigation whether they have anything further on anybody there or not. And I asked for that. I said I need that because the community needs to know that, like you just said, people have probably, sounds like somebody's advised you that they think people could be involved.
True. That's why I was wondering do you need to do a full audit maybe of the department?
We're going to do it. We're doing a financial audit to start with, and we're doing an audit of personnel files of the command staff. We're looking at everything. It's not just a Blackmon take over and run with us. We're going to do a full thorough. We've got to do it. This doesn't matter to anybody. We got to do an evidence property audit as well on everything they've got in inventory, which happens when you get a new sheriff, regardless of whether it's an appointment or whether you're elected. But there'll be a full financial audit as well to see what's going on. But we're going to try to go through everything we can with a fine-tooth comb to make sure there's nothing there that's alarming. If there is, I can assure you that we will take action immediately. But again, I'm waiting for FDLE's investigation.
There's no question, like I said, your credentials, and nobody would question you being appointed in this role. But let's face it, you are going into this role with very difficult circumstances. You have a sheriff who was arrested. Certainly you have a team that is there that is reeling still. How will you deal with those officers and personnel at the Osceola County Sheriff's Office given this situation?
Understand that this is not a systemic problem with the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. This is one person. And sadly, it was the sheriff who's betrayed the trust of everybody that works at the Osceola County Sheriff's Office and every resident that lives in Osceola County. And on top of that, he's violated the trust of those who elected him to be in office to do the right thing. He did not. He has broken the law. To me, it's at a higher level when you're a sheriff and administrator of an agency. You're supposed to uphold the law, not break the law. To me, and I hate to use the term, but there's nothing worse than a dirty cop. And I can assure you, as the sheriff of Osceola County, that we will not have that. We will not tolerate law enforcement doing the wrong thing. I believe in integrity, and once your integrity is gone, you have nothing. So that's going to be a staple of the sheriff's office. I have met with as many people as I could the first day, spoke to numerous shifts, gave them my vision for the sheriff's office and what I want to see. And I want them to go out and do their job and do it right, not feel any threats or political intimidation because of an elected official that's worried about votes. I'm not. We're going to do our job and do it right, and we'll see what the future holds.
Osceola County is very different than many of the other counties. There's a large Latino population there. There's a large group of people from different places. How is that going to affect how you handle your role and how your relationship with the community will develop?
Well, we're going to develop relationships with them because I'm not from that area. I've not done that there. But again, my job is to protect everybody. It doesn't matter. We have to serve all, and we're going to serve with integrity and grace and do our job the right way. And we're not going to put up with any criminal activity, any criminal offenses in Osceola County. You know, the governor passed a lot of legislation governing the protest and stuff like that. And we're not going to tolerate nonsense. I believe you have the right to protest, but it's peaceful. We're not going to put up with any garbage in Osceola County. So, but again, I want to get out in the community and meet the folks of Osceola County and talk to them and see what's on their mind. One, to reassure them that we're going to do the right thing. And I want to remove the stain that the former sheriff has left on the sheriff's office.
Now, you also have a really specialized background with ICE. How does your background help you with that, and what is your vision for that?
I've heard the term of the UDA. You're either here illegally or you're not. If you're illegally in the United States, the president has already put out the word, you can self-deport. I intend to continue with that. If you're illegally, you shouldn't be in the United States. Again, my office will help people if they want to self-deport. We will reach out to the community because I believe that people should immigrate here legally, not just come in and take jobs from other folks by being illegal.
And you'll be working closely with ICE, is that correct?
Absolutely. We've got ICE has just sent an agent down from DC that's directly assigned to the state of Florida. And he's the gentleman that helped us get the Highway Patrol 287G certified, which what that means, 287G, is all state troopers that are 287G certified and credentialed. They had to do training and got credentials. They can enforce any ICE statutes. I'm going to say it as the sheriff. You need to self-deport because if you do not and you're detained by law enforcement, according to what the president's put out, you're not going to be allowed to come back. So if you deport yourself, they're giving you money to get you home, start the process, do it right and come back and be a productive citizen and pay the taxes that you and I pay. Everybody else pays that works a legal job.
So will people notice there's a new sheriff in town?
I hope so, but I hope you look at it as a positive. I can't change everything in a day, but we're going to, if it makes sense. We had some issues at Highway Patrol that when Director Kerner came in, I met with him and said some of our processes are redundant. They're ridiculous. So we streamlined a lot of stuff that we did. So that's my objective internally, is to make the agency more efficient internally.
So let's go to housekeeping. When do you actually start? And by the way, thank you. Your dedication is showing because I know you're on vacation with your lovely wife and family, and you've decided to, spend a little time with us here at News 6. When do you officially start? When will we see you in the office?
I'm back next Monday, but I started Thursday, unfortunately. And I told the governor's office when this went down, I said, listen, we've already got a pre-planned trip, and this for us could not be at the absolute worst timing. And I really, really hated to leave, the day after. Knowing the way I work, it's probably going to be nonstop for even Saturdays and Sundays so we can get things rolling, because I owe it to the employees to introduce myself to them and tell them what my thoughts are for the sheriff's office. But again, I want their feedback. It was funny. I'm not going to call the person out, but it was kind of comical. I had a deputy ask me, supervisor, hey, you came from FHP and your uniforms are usually pretty sharp. You're going to make us put our vest under our shirts. And I said, no, because, FHPRs are under our uniform shirt. I said, I am not. And then somebody said, hey, you're going to make us cover up our tattoos. And I said, listen, it's a societal norm now. I'm no fan of tattoos. However, I'm not going to come in and change that overnight. As long as your tattoos aren't offensive or just deemed to be offensive, okay, I'm okay with it. And one person said, what about my beard? Because FHP didn't allow beards. I said, listen, the three things we just talked about are not being changed. I'm just going to ask you if you have a beard. It needs to be sharp, needs to be trimmed up. I'm not in favor of those either on the job. However, I'm not going to change it because that's the norm that's been going on there. Again, if you come in looking like ZZ Top, we got a problem. You better be one of my UCs and not a patrol deputy wearing your ZZ Top beard. So, but I'm not against it. Those three things. They've asked me other questions about stuff, and I said, listen, I need to know to you all what's important.
What is your vision when you are in there and it was your perfect world and it's under your leadership? What does the Osceola County Sheriff's Office look like at that point?
I hope the community looked at us then as a very trustworthy agency that's out to do the right thing, and we were out to protect our community at all costs. And paramount to me is people that prey on children and people that prey on the elderly. So it's going to be a law and order county. I believe in the governor's initiative. I'm not saying that because he appointed me. You can ask anybody prior to Tuesday morning what my view was, and it's law and order. I believe a person has a right to protest, but that's peaceful. We're not going to tolerate the stuff that's happening in Los Angeles. Absolutely not. People go to jail. There's been a number of things that were through the Combating Violence, Disorder, and Looting and Law Enforcement Protection Act that the governor passed last year or maybe the year before. But there's a lot of things in there to curtail the criminal behavior and destruction of property and injuries to people because you want to protest, and taking over roadways is not going to happen. Like the first roadway takeover.
What about peaceful protests?
That is covered in the Constitution. I support that 1,000,000%. That is governed in our U.S. Constitution. So we will support that. You have the right to protest. You don't have to agree with us, but you can't be violent. You can't take over roadways.
Well, I think people are going to be really happy to hear that. And we're so appreciative that you took the time out of your vacation to speak with us here at News 6. And we are looking forward to meeting you and seeing you in person when you start on Monday.
Let me give you one other little tidbit. My ancestry is American Indian. So quite possibly it could be the first American Indian to be a sheriff in the state. I don't know. But the really cool thing is, I was looking at it this morning, is, Osceola is named after Billy Powell, who was an Indian, Osceola Indian. He was actually a Creek and American mix. And I am Creek and Cherokee, amongst European as well. But ancestry is some Native American. So to me, it's cool to be part Native American and be in a county named after a fellow Creek Indian and Osceola.
I'd say that's breaking news.
I guess say it's pretty cool to me. I did, and it's funny. I didn't put all this together. This morning, I'm laying in bed thinking about this interview with you and things to say. And I said, man, let me look up the history of Osceola County, because I know I've seen the logo, and sure enough, Osceola was named after Billy Powell, which is cool to me because we have some Native American blood in us, my family, and thought that was pretty cool.
That is amazing. Is that on your mom or your dad's side?
Both.
Both sides.
More on my dad's side than my mom. My mom's more European in some, but my dad was Creek and Eastern European.
Well, that is amazing. I think you might be. I think you might be the first. I have to check into that now. Like I said, that's breaking news to me. So thank you for sharing that.
It's pretty cool, but there's certain things that are privileges you may get. I've never exercised those. I don't want to use those. I want to do it on my merit of who I am and the way I conduct business and the way I treat people. I try to operate by the golden rule. treat others the way you want to be treated. And I believe in divine intervention through God, and I believe all things are possible through the Lord. So I'm going to hang my hat on that, and we're going to keep rolling with that.
Well, on that note, thank you once again